Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is John Ross with the XPian Daily Report for September 28th, Monday, September 28th. I was doing July for a while. I got all mixed up. And then I got through August. Now I got to remember. Now we got to go to October. We got more months to go to. But now this is September 28th, and I have a special guest with me today. A man of many hats. And we're going to welcome Juan Thomas. Welcome, Juan.
Hello, John. Thanks for having me back. It's good to see you.
Yes, you're back. And I known Juan golly, at least 10 years or more, probably at least 10 or more, right, Juan? Maybe 10?
At least, yeah.
At least that. And he's a Kiwanis buddy. I think I did recommend him for Kiwanis. Was that how it was? I think I did.
Yeah.
No, he could have got in without me. He doesn't need me to recommend him. But anyway, he's a Kiwanian, and he's done many things. Where'd my bio go? Oh, I don't need this bio, Juan. I know some of it, but Juan is the reason, really, Juan, I wanted to get Juan on today was we're going to talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And Juan has served, I think it's about the same time I was president of the Kiwanis group in Aurora. He was the 75th president of the National Bar Association. That was, I guess, from August 17 to August 2018, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think you beat me by a month or so on the dates there, but I was in that period too. And during that period, Juan did a lot of stuff about voter stuff, and that still needed suppression and things along that line. And he worked with the tech industry, and he's worked on human rights and other issues. So Juan's been really in there, and I've known his wife Angie for several years also. And I just noticed they had a wedding anniversary just a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
13th, I think it was. I was looking through my stuff. Yeah. And it's Angie Clay Thomas, and she's with the Pregnancy Information. We got to talk to her more. She's got a fundraiser coming up here, too.
She sure does.
This week, I believe. Yeah, we got to talk about that more with Angie. And Juan is, besides that, Juan is a local guy. He was elected to the West Aurora School District Board. And what was that, 205, I think I got down here or something like that?
No, 1995, actually.
Oh, 95. Okay, excuse me. That 205 was enough. Sorry about that.
That was when I was
that was the other election. Okay.
Right.
So he was on the school board, and he did things there. And then he later was elected township clerk in Aurora Township clerk, right? Correct?
Right.
And that was in 205, right?
That was in 205.
Yeah. He was the first Democrat elected to that. And then we'll make a leap here, the first African-American elected to that position. So Juan has been doing a lot of things in the community. He's a graduate of Morehouse College. Oh, they still use college there, huh?
We're not a university. It's a college.
Everybody changes. They like university. But when I went to Trinity, it was college for so many years, and then all of a sudden,
now we're Trinity
International. Yeah, what was that one?
We are steeped and proud of our traditions.
Okay. I don't know. Do they have undergraduate programs there at Morehouse?
Yeah, that's why it's a college. Universities have graduate programs.
That's what I meant. And I've been the undergraduate, but they don't have any graduate programs really.
No, not at the college. We have a school of medicine. That's a separate institution, and we're also connected to a theological institution called ITC. But again, that's a separate institution.
Okay. Well, okay. I think you're correct on that term. You got to have some other graduate programs. And
right.
Trinity came in with a few because they have this divinity school up there, Trinity Evangelical Divinity School. I guess that's how that works. And you're the legal counsel for their alumni association, right?
I am. I am.
Yeah, and as we talked about once before, they got a nice big gift there a few years ago, didn't they?
We
From
got $40 million from the founder and CEO of Netflix.
that guy's the founder of Netflix too. I didn't know how I forgot how he raised it. That really, wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Juan's been doing a lot of things, and I thought he would be a good person to talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And when did you first meet Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Juan?
I met her during my term as president of the National Bar Association. The picture you have there is from the day I met her in May of 2018 in Washington at the Supreme Court building.
Oh, really?
Every year, the National Bar Association's Women Lawyers Division has a swearing-in ceremony where our members who are accepted are sworn into the Supreme Court. And so we had a ceremony that day where a group of our National Bar Association members were sworn in. And as president, the president normally heads that delegation of people being sworn in. So it was my delight and my honor to be there. Also in the picture is Iris Green. She's a lawyer in Washington, D.C., and she's a founding member of the Women Lawyers Division and a past president of that division, a very active member of our association. And so after everyone gets sworn in, each justice decides which group they're going to meet with. And we were so happy that Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg decided to meet with us. And we took several pictures, and I had a private moment with her there as president on behalf of the association.
I got another picture I'm going to put up here. I'll take this one down. It's a nice shot there, shaking hands there. I got another one. It's sort of like a little group shot here that you had. There's a little group shot.
Yeah, that's the group shot. Same day, Wade Henderson. Actually, he was the one who swore us in terms of he made the official request. He's a very prominent and distinguished lawyer in Washington.
So what are you swearing in for here? Your bar
to be a member
or to be on a Supreme, like you were mentioning off camera about being a Supreme Court lawyer?
Yes. So every year the Supreme Court swears in lawyers who are in good standing to be able to argue cases before the Supreme Court.
Okay.
So that's what we were being sworn. So now we are able to bring a case to the Supreme Court if one of our cases would actually go up to the Supreme Court, which is very rare and very difficult.
So I think I'm gathering you're one of these that are eligible to go to the Supreme Court too.
I was sworn in that day. Yes.
Yes, I think, and
Mr. Henderson,
some of these women were too that you're having with you.
Yeah.
There
are other pictures. There was about 35 to 40 people that were sworn in that day.
Okay.
With the National Bar Association. That might be a little high. Maybe more like 20, 25. I don't specifically remember, but I've got group pictures with the entire group.
Okay. Now, is this done right before the term begins, or is it a certain time of the year when they do this? When do they do this?
We have ours in May. It was the Tuesday after Memorial Day, so it was the last Tuesday of the month, I believe.
Okay.
In May. The court does not start a new term until October.
Right.
I believe it's the first Monday in October. So this was during the term.
Okay, so but your credentials are good for future too?
Yes, they're good forever.
So you don't have to get sworn in again, I mean.
No.
Okay. So that was 2 years ago, a little more.
Yep, May of 2018.
And she's been fighting cancer for a long time, right?
Very long time. I think she's had multiple bouts over the last few decades.
So,
and I'll just say this on a very personal note. She was a very kind and gentle spirit, if you will.
Wow, that's nice.
Very gracious, and she was very petite also, so almost fragile even.
Yeah,
But
she looks like she's on the smaller end of everybody there.
but I say that not to let her fool you. Her work and her legacy
Right.
made her a giant.
Well, I
And she
understand
was
that. I
tenacious.
understand your point, but she
So
just
don't
'cause
let
she's small in
don't let her
stature
good looks
doesn't
fool
mean
you.
she's not a giant, right?
That's right. That's right.
And
Don't let her appearance fool you. She was a fierce and ferocious fighter for civil rights, for women's rights, for equal justice under the law. And she's truly going to be missed. She was truly the progressive liberal icon of the last 10 years, 15 years, leading that wing of the Supreme Court. And she's going to be sorely missed and huge shoes to fill. I said to another group of people in this context of conversation, what Thurgood Marshall meant for civil rights, for racial equality,
right.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg meant that same for women's rights and social equality for women.
Right. Yeah, so there's her passing brings a lot of challenges too, doesn't it? And we've been hearing about those the last few days with President Trump's nominee of Amy Coney Barrett to that position. And I think there's other challenges too, but that is a challenge to everybody thinking on that story and how that came about. And personally, I think it was it's just sort of a sham thing because these people in the Republican Party didn't want to, go forth with Obama, President Obama's nominee, and that was in February of that year of 16. Mm-hmm. And then they turned around and say it's all right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, just to echo your sentiments, the level of blatant, outright hypocrisy among our friends on the right is shameful. It's unfortunate, though, that seems not to be the persuasive argument.
No.
In the context of this debate. And the stakes could not be higher in this Supreme Court vacancy. The Affordable Care Act, and healthcare in particular,
right,
is at stake. We are in the middle of a pandemic, and it's very likely that if the Republicans get their way, they may have the votes to actually overturn the Affordable Care Act, leaving millions upon millions of Americans without health insurance and without health care in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic. And in particular, if healthcare companies and insurance companies don't insure people with pre-existing conditions, it is very likely that if you have COVID-19, you will be denied insurance because you now have a pre-existing condition.
Right. We don't know all the things going about COVID.
So the stakes could not be higher. And so I would urge all of your listeners to please reach out to your senators here in Illinois. It's my understanding that Senator Durbin and Senator Duckworth will oppose the nominee. But this is much bigger than Judge Barrett. This is about the integrity of the court and the court not being politicized. And no party should manipulate the process to impact the court for a lifetime. I shared last week, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was appointed to the bench in 1993. I was 22 years old, turning 23 that year. I'll be 50.
Oh, no, don't tell us this, please. Okay.
That's how long she served on the bench.
Yeah.
Okay. This nominee will likely serve until I'm in my 70s or early 80s, a lifetime. And so it's important.
No, I want you to live longer, but we don't have to have her serving longer.
Well, My grandmother just passed away. She was 89. So
Wow, nice.
I would love to get to 89, if
Yeah,
not more.
same here.
But I highlight that because the impact of a Supreme Court justice is generational.
Right.
And that's why it's critically important that there be integrity in this process.
Yeah.
You know, what I realized as I thought more and more about this, my friends in the Republican Party are using this footnote that in 16 it was because they didn't let Neil Gorsuch, I'm sorry, not Neil Gorsuch, he's on there now. You said his name and I'm blanking.
I didn't have his name, I forgot.
Oh,
We're getting old. We're getting too old here, Juan.
Right. Merrick Garland.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's it.
They didn't let him go through because the White House was in one party, the Senate was in another party. But remember, the night Justice Scalia passed away, Mitch McConnell made a statement that they would not even hold a hearing or a vote for an Obama nominee.
Right.
If they had had any integrity in the moment, they could have at least held hearings and taken a vote. And they could have voted him down.
That's right. They probably had the votes then, didn't they?
They controlled the Senate.
Well, it's true. Why didn't they do that?
They could have done that and had some integrity in saying, no, we reject this.
Well, they could have used the same argument. At least they would have went through the whole process.
Exactly.
Here, that's
why this is so hypocritical. Because they didn't even allow the point. Right. They didn't even go through the process in 2000.
Right, they didn't. And that was
here.
Horrible.
We are less than 40 days away. I think we're 38 or 37 days away.
Yeah.
And Lindsey Graham has already announced that as chair of the judiciary, he's going to have hearings on October 12th, and they want to vote by the end of October.
Yeah, they want to vote even before that.
Right.
Well, I think they're going to, I think you're right. Maybe, and then they win. I mean, they say she's all right before the election, I guess. They're swearing her in.
And so my view, and many of the organizations, many of the organizations that I'm a member of, we are asking that a nomination not be made until after the next president is sworn in. If Donald Trump is reelected, he has the right to make that appointment.
Right.
If Joe Biden is elected, he should make that appointment, particularly so close to an election. Too much is at stake to ram through a nominee in less than a month to 2 months with any sense of integrity. And it's unfortunate that the Republican Party, in particular the Senate, now wants to basically politicize this process. Even though it is a political process, there was a time where the Supreme Court was revered as the institution that was committed to upholding the rule of law and equal justice under the law. But now it's being seen as a political institution where whoever is in control of the White House or the Senate is just going to ram through their judges who reflect their particular judicial philosophy. And it's sad.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm glad you didn't bring up, Juan, and I think this is, some of the audience knows where my leanings are. I won't, but I think that for the Democrats to go on the abortion issue with this, or being the lady's Catholic or something like that, is going down the wrong, as a rabbit hole would be the word. I think it's the wrong way to go. I won't talk. I think the best argument and I think it is a valid argument, is about what we're just talking about here, this inconsistency of the Republicans and being so late here also. And
as you know, John, you and I are both men of faith and active in our religious traditions. I have no basis to question Judge Barrett's faith, and
well, there's some that are going to do that. I think maybe.
I think that is inappropriate and uncalled for. My question to Judge Barrett would be, how does she uphold the Constitution?
Right.
How does she interpret the Constitution? And how does that apply to people across the country? And does she have respect for legal precedent, and established norms that have been well established or is she looking to take us back to an era? Because again, civil rights are on the ballot, healthcare is on the ballot, immigration reform is on the ballot, and all of these issues can be impacted by who is on the Supreme Court for the next 30 to 40 years. And to your point about women's health, in particular abortion, as you and I both know, that is a very sensitive, personal, and controversial issue. And reasonable people can see that differently. And I know in the Catholic tradition, there are many Catholics that are pro-choice. There are many that are pro-life. But I will say this, and this is something that I don't want to go totally off topic, but I want to say something to my party and to my friends on the right. I have found that this debate around abortion is so polarized on the extreme of both sides,
right,
that we can't really engage in a thoughtful conversation
right
about this issue.
There's no middle ground.
No middle ground.
I mean, personally, some of you know where I'm at. I'll tell you, I ran in 1988, long time ago. I ran for state rep, and anyway, we did fair. But we did fair. But one issue, there was a couple issues that always were brought up. One was abortion. The other was wearing helmets on your head. And the other thing was for motorcycles. And the other thing was I was against the collider coming out to Fermilab. But back to about the abortion thing, I've always felt that should be I don't think it can be overturned personally, or it's going to change overnight. So my point of view has always been the federal government shouldn't be involved. So I'm sort of more for the Hyde Amendment, and don't put any money in there, and have you still have abortions, but you don't have federal funding in there. And I think it could be done as a nonprofit. The expense of abortion is not that high anyway. So that's sort of
Can I share with you
that's sort of a false issue in my opinion. But what one?
Let me share with you, because we have a similar story. You ran for state rep back in, I think, 88, you said.
Yeah, 88.
I ran for state rep in 2020.
Yeah.
And I was vilified by the left in a Democratic primary.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because I have a specific issue that I do not agree with the left on.
You're right. This is like, and I've seen, and I think some of we're going off a little here, but some would say, "Oh, I got to be for Planned Parenthood." No, I don't have to be for Planned Parenthood.
I understand that.
We don't have to give money to Planned Parenthood either. It's a private thing. They can get their own money. They don't need federal or state money. Right. And the abortion thing, it's not going to go away because it's a state issue. Actually, I want to say, after the Supreme Court, let's say they rule against it and it's Roe versus Wade gets struck, it's still a state issue. And I think I agree there is going to be some problems. Some states might be, and back and forth, the women might go. That is a problem. But basically, it's a big fundraiser for both sides. They like, the Republicans love it, and they're using it right now on this lady, and they're going to, and the Democrats do the same thing, and there's no middle ground. Like, I think the healthcare thing is a middle ground. I think that could help out women and reduce the chances for abortion by quite a bit. If we had more healthcare, higher minimum wages, you can go down the list of how we can help women so they don't have as many abortions. And I don't see the Republican side, and the Democrats aren't offering this actually as an olive branch either too much. They don't even want to talk like this probably. They sort of put, what's it, Casey in Pennsylvania? Is that Bill?
Yeah, Senator Casey.
Yeah, they put him sort of on the sideline, and he's been pro-life, and there's been a few others in predominant positions, and I don't know if there is much middle ground here, but there should be an attempt to get to more middle ground.
The problem is, in a political campaign, both sides Either side will attack you if you're not 100%.
Oh, right. You're weak or something, or
Right. And so, like I was sharing, I believe that minor children, 13, 14-year-old girls, should have some adult, preferably a parent.
About co-signing or signing off on it?
Notification, right. But in Illinois, the left, particularly Personal PAC, and those who promote and support Personal PAC, are trying to abolish parental notification. And here's my point to them. Ask any father or mother, do you want to know if your 13-year-old daughter is pregnant? And the answer is, of course they do.
Right.
Just like that 13 or 14-year-old daughter has to get consent to go to Great America from her parents.
Right. Doesn't make no sense. Right.
Now, I want to make this other point.
Yeah.
There are exceptions where there's such an abusive situation,
right. But the court
where a young girl may not have those kind of parents, that kind of relationship. Let's carve out exceptions for that.
Right. No, I agree with you.
For the abuse, for the incest, things like that. But for millions of Illinois parents who are good parents, good moms, good dads, who are involved in their children's lives, to tell them that their 13, 14-year-old daughter is pregnant and they have no right to know about it and can't be informed about it, I think is absurd. And my colleague, not my colleague, I tried to be his colleague, but my brother in the struggle, Chris Welch, state rep from the west side of Chicago, he keeps making the argument, because it's his bill. He says, my wife should have the same rights as my daughter.
Now, has that happened yet?
No, they haven't passed that because there's resistance.
Oh, so it's been dead for 20 years then.
Yeah. And I would say to my good friend my friend Chris Welch, that your wife can vote, your daughter cannot. Your wife can go to the military, your daughter cannot. Your wife can drink, your daughter cannot. Right. Your wife can own a gun, your daughter cannot. Okay. And so I do not believe that 13-year-old girls have the same rights as 25-year-old women. There's a difference.
That's happening in a lot of issues too.
I'm talking to you, and I'm going to make this point.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you as what people would call a pro-choice Democrat, but I have a limit. I'm not willing to just go all out and say abortion on demand, whenever, whoever, all the time, or as my party likes to say, 100%, 100%, 100%, because I believe that families matter. Right. And healthy families matter. And so I know we're a bit off topic, but I think it's important too, because the Supreme Court, if they overturn Roe,
right,
it's going to open up this conversation again.
You're right.
And John, let me just say this. As a person of faith, as a person who has a wife, who has a sister, who has nieces, who have female friends, who've known women that have been great role models to me and friends of mine across the country and over the years.
Right.
No woman looks at this issue with any ease or comfort. This is a very difficult, painful moment.
Right.
And I know women who are in their 50s and 60s who will admit in private they've had to terminate a pregnancy back when they were in their 20s or late teens. Mm-hmm. And John, they still cry about it 40 years later. Right. They still tear up. And it's not political. It's personal. And I would say to my friends on the left and the right, all of us want to reduce.
That's the thing. We do want to reduce it. Yes. Big. Yes.
And that's the work we need to be doing, is reducing the need to even have to make that very difficult, painful decision.
Yeah, well, if some of these things we just talked about, the elimination of health care, that'll be a big one. In my opinion, that'll increase abortions. It just will, because the mother won't have any hope.
That's right.
Without hope, Now, some of my conservative friends say it's a spiritual problem. They just don't have the spiritual tone right. Well, that's somewhat true, but basically, there's other issues here. It's more than spiritual. It's
I want to
economic.
ask my friends
It's
on the right this
realistic
question.
here. Huh?
Right. I want to ask my friends on the right this question. You
Uh-huh.
want the woman to have the baby.
Right.
Does the baby need health insurance?
That's it.
The
You
baby
got it,
you're
Warren.
going to have needs to be born in a hospital. You need health insurance to
Right.
do that.
And they need it after their birth.
It's called
Besides their birth,
prenatal
they
care.
need it all the time. We need it here. This country needs good health insurance, and
Right.
it's no. And I hope we're going that way with. Mr. Trump has not offered anything yet. I don't believe he can.
Maybe tomorrow night he'll offer a plan.
He keeps claiming he's got. Well, I think he released something a few days ago. I mean, it's a secret plan. I don't know what it was. I haven't heard much about it. It's always like 2 weeks away. It's like his tax returns; they're coming. But
Right. We'll see. But getting back on topic, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a champion for women's rights,
right,
protecting women's health care choices, and so those who are in that tradition look at her, and I look at her as a role model for those type of issues, even if there are moments where we disagree on a particular point here or there. She was a champion for protecting a woman's right to choose and women's health care choices. And again, that is on the ballot. That is in the context of this Supreme Court decision.
right.
And I can't stress the importance of voting early,
Right.
and voting as soon as you can, because the next president and the next Senate will have to deal with how this moment is dealt with today. I'm hoping that the Senate will not vote on this nomination until after the election. It's my hope that the president would have waited until after the January 20th swearing in, whether it be he or Joe Biden. That did not happen. And so now we're in a political quagmire. We're in a political fight of our lifetime. And this is going, Michelle Obama made a comment this summer at the DNC convention that is ringing true today. She said things could get worse. Do you remember that?
I know she had a tougher tone. I forgot she said that, but I'll let you. You were listening close. I might have been. I might have had my eyelids closed. No, I didn't. But I don't remember that. Go on.
And she's become a prophetic witness to that reality.
Right.
Things have gotten worse since this summer.
Wow. This virus is doing it too.
Virus, and now with the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
right?
The country is even more polarized. This has just been a very difficult and challenging moment, but we have to exercise our vote. That's how we express our voice. And for those, I was on a call last week with a young activist out of Chicago. I want to say to all of my millennial brothers and sisters out there, if you protest and don't vote, your protest will not be heard.
Yeah.
You are protesting and nobody is hearing you.
Right.
Because you're not going to exercise your voice in a way that the people who make decisions listen to and respond to. So if you want to be heard after the protest, go vote.
Right. So get out there and register to vote. Then if you want, like I'm doing mail in, or you can vote early too. Those are some options. You don't have to wait till November 3rd.
Nope, you do not.
That's my birthday, so I can celebrate or bemoan that day. I've celebrated many times. I remember, and I'll be honest with you, folks, in 2008 with what was my mom then? She was 90.
Right.
Yeah, 93.
Speaking of voting,
93 at that time. Yeah, it was the last time we were together that year, but she died in 2009.
Oh,
But I remember celebrating with her the Obama victory. I remember that so vividly. I even got a nice little picture of
that
that
was a special night.
with my mom. We were just celebrating that.
So,
But
speaking
one,
of voting, can I share one of the Supreme Court cases
yeah,
that
go
gave
right
her?
ahead.
Thank you. One of the impacts that she had was in the dissent she wrote in the Shelby County versus Holder
Okay, okay,
in 2013. That was the case that essentially gutted the Voting Rights Act and eliminated the pre-clearance provisions in the Voting Rights Act. What that means is, for your listening audience, prior to that being eliminated, the Voting Rights Act required that states get approval before they change the voting procedures and processes in their respective states. And there
okay,
were certain states that had to get approval, namely the states who had had Jim Crow laws
right,
back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, anytime after basically Reconstruction. And so that was primarily the South and other select states across the country. And you had to get approval before you made changes, voting procedures
right,
in the laws in your state. Well, by gutting that act, the pre-clearance provision, states literally the day after that was done start introducing and passing voter suppression laws,
right. Yeah, that's
changing voter ID requirements, eliminating polling places, um, the year you live. And so she wrote in her dissent a very powerful line that gets quoted often. I want to make sure your listeners hear.
okay,
Eliminating the pre-clearance provision because you're claiming there's no more discrimination in voting is like throwing away your umbrella in a rainstorm because you're not getting wet. You don't what's working because it's working. You don't throw away your umbrella in a rainstorm because you're not wet. As soon as
right,
you throw it away, guess what's going to happen? People are going to pass laws to change voting procedures, and that's
right.
where we've had this swell of rain on us around the country that I'm calling voter suppression that's been pouring down on us for the last several years. And so
Right.
she wrote the dissenting opinion in that case, trying to uphold the pre-clearance provision. And it's my prediction that ultimately one day, many of her dissents, particularly in Shelby, particularly in a case called Lilly Ledbetter that dealt with equal pay for women, her language, her rationale will one day be the law of the land. It may not be today, but that day is coming because America is changing and moving in a direction to uphold equal rights for all, not just a select few.
Thank you on that. One quick closing thoughts here. I think we've discussed there's a lot we could discuss, but I want to get. I know you have a thought on this uh, briefly, but you can expound too. But the question is, let's just say the Democrats win the election, win the Senate, win the White House, and of course win the House, and still we have this new nominee get through. Do you support, or what's your thought about two things? One, should the Democrats increase the federal court system and have more judges? And do you think the same should be done, increase the Supreme Court by two or whatever number it should be more? What do you think on that one?
I've heard a lot of debate on that. I've done some reading on that topic. Um, I have two competing thoughts. One is when you are in a fight with someone who's not playing by the rules, to what extent do you continue to play by the rules because you are the more noble, more respectable person or side, if you will? Fight fair is the concept.
Right.
And I wrestle with that because what the Republicans are showing us and showing me in particular, in my view, is that they don't believe in rules or process or fairness. They will move the goalposts depending upon what day of the week it is.
That's the ends justify the means, right? You do anything to get there.
Exactly. It's an attempt to just grab power and impose their will on the American people, because I think they know their days are numbered. And so I don't want to take drastic steps in response to them not following the rules. However, I do understand the frustration among some of the activists, particularly the young activists, who have lost faith in this system, who've lost faith in this democracy, and are not willing to just accept. Here's the notion: it's not enough to be better than the Republicans. The Democratic Party just can't be better than the other guy who has no shame, who has no moral conviction about it, around integrity, upholding what they said in 2016. And now they want to make this footnote that and if you look back and play the tape, not one Republican made this footnote argument that we're not going to confirm Merrick Garland because we're the Republican Senate and he's nominated by a Democratic president. They didn't make this partisan argument in 2016. They
didn't make the power argument. They used some other logic.
Right. And so it's disingenuous and it's dishonest. Because if they were really going to make the political argument in 2016, they should have had a hearing, held a vote, and voted him down.
Well, see, maybe they were worried that some of their cohorts might not. I think that's probably would have gone over. But they should have done it. That's the honest way to do it.
But I will tell you this: I understand the frustration of my activist brothers and sisters who are, and some of the more progressive folks in my party, who are calling for expansion of the Supreme Court. They also want to perhaps, it's long overdue, and I do support, DC statehood. The residents.
Oh yeah, that's another issue too, right?
Deserve
Puerto Rico. You go down Puerto Rico too.
And so does Puerto Rico. That would probably give the Democrats 4 new senators.
Those things are going to be tough, Juan, with the state legislature.
Oh, I know. So let me say this: I am taking off my traditional hat.
Okay.
Someone who's grown up in the law and believes in process and procedure.
Right.
And I believe we ought to have a conversation and have everything on the table.
Right.
Everything on the table, because I can say, as someone who's been actively involved in politics for now 25 plus years, I see the inherent flaws in the system. I see the limitations that people have in public office. I see the profound impact that money has on politics, and how big money in politics often impacts or dictates who wins. And I also see the frustration of why people are upset and protesting, because even when we elect Democrats who are committed to certain principles that I agree with, they don't see the change they want to see. And so I'm willing to be a critic in love of my party.
Okay.
Of the Democratic Party.
Right.
And I think we need to look at everything, because, as I'm saying to people, I'm going to say it very clearly, there's a slew of voters who are not going to accept that we should elect Joe Biden just because he's better than Donald Trump. That can have more. Joe Biden has to, and he's doing this. He has to show what he's going to do to change people's lives, and we need to see that on a national and local level.
Tomorrow night, all folks, be sure to listen to that debate tomorrow night. Trump-Biden should be very interesting debate.
Yes.
And I want to thank Juan for being with us here. And I hope you can join me tomorrow. I mean, not tomorrow. I got my days all goofy here now. On Wednesday, we'll have still working on the guests. These guests are, Juan just came right. It just came just, I don't know, Juan just appeared. No, I saw this. Juan did an interview a few days ago. So I thought, yes, Juan is good. And he knows about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And we just thank you for your insights about her. And I just want to thank Juan again for being with us here. And we'll see you soon again here. I'm going to just give my little thank you to Juan. We got to throw out a little thank you here. Thank you, Juan.
Thank you, John.
And greet your wife there. And I just thank you. And so right now we're just going to say, God bless and bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. See you Wednesday. Bye-bye. Okay, there we